my kid's gonna go, and it's gonna be in the next 10 days. I know it. I have all the evidence that I know that he's not here.
Call to order and welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court Finance and Budget Committee for February. JP Ecke has volunteered to do the prayer and pledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will you all bow your heads in honor while we pray? Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that we can approach you and call you Heavenly Father because of what Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, has done. There's a lot to be said about reconciliation and redemption, and let us never forget the cost and the price that was paid for us to be redeemed and reconciled. And let us never forget the cost of those that have gone before us, paid so that way this nation would be formed. They gave their lives to hold up the flag, and that liberty and justice for all still reigns. And so with that in mind, I ask that each justice here make the decisions based on the liberty and freedoms of those who have fought before us and bled and died, and value it. And I ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, JP Ecke. Item 3 is the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? JP Ecke?
Nope.
Oh, no.
Just
Sorry.
second.
Okay. I have a motion from JP Lemming to approve the agenda. Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The agenda is adopted. Item 4 is the Treasurer's Report. Treasurer Hill.
Uh, 4.1 Treasurer Summary. General had 5.4 in revenue compared to 3.8 in expenditures. Ended the month with a little over 18 million in the bank. You go down the road, expenditures of 1.7 compared to almost 1.3 revenues coming in. And finally, the jail, they brought in about what they spent. So at the end of this report, we started the month with 83.6 million in the bank and ended with 79.2 million. 4.2, the ARPA report, mainly just out of the COVID mitigation project, about 965,000 was spent, and we have 3.2 remaining in that fund. 4.3, I added this report. I know some of the JPs last year wanted to know about the millage. This will be collected this year, 2026. You see underneath the millage breakdown is 7.1 billion. That's the 20% assessed value of all Washington County properties. So if you look right down general, that 0.0001, it's a tenth of a mil, brings in 711,000. We won't get all that because it's not everybody pays on time, but like if you go down to the shaded area, 4.3, that's what our millage is currently for the general fund. 30.6 is what it shows, but my projection is 24.6. Just because, like I said, some people won't pay on time and you have to deduct things like property tax relief from that. But if there's any questions on that, feel free to call my office anytime. 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax. Last year, that 16, you see 16.13. Last year, that was 16.26. We had another, I think, 300 people leave the county and get annexed into Greenland. And for the first time since July of 24, we had a negative growth. 928,000 came in, and that was almost a 4% decrease over last year at the same time. And that deduction in the percentage didn't help any. 4.5, finally, the quarter-cent jail tax, 1.4 million came in, and that's about a little less than 2.5% down from last January. That's all I have.
Any questions for Treasurer Hill? J.P. Aki.
Thank you. As always, thank you,
You're welcome.
Treasurer Hill. I do have a question
Okay.
regarding, let's go back to 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax. Right now, our share went down to 16.3% of that. I guess my question is there any conversation at the AAC regarding the constant annexation and the shrinking pie available to the county? Because when is it going to be all of a sudden nothing?
Yeah,
I know Pulaski County has, but they still have a large rural area. And
yeah. I mean, after the census, this latest census, we were at 18.5, I think. So we've dropped over 2 points since then. So, but there's no conversations that I'm aware of about that issue.
Okay. It does concern me because I think when I started the court, we were up at 24, 25, 27, I think, and then it kept on getting smaller and smaller
When we first
and smaller
started,
and smaller.
way back in the 80s, it was like 30-something %. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, Treasurer Hill.
Thank you.
Item 5 is the employees' insurance report. Mr. Angel.
Good evening.
Evening.
All right, well, as you can see, this most recent cash flow report will allow us to kind of wrap up 2025, so I may go into a couple more things that I don't usually, because we have an actual annual snapshot we can look at here. And then when I conclude that, I want to kind of go into something that we're doing on specialty medications. We touched on it last month, but I want to make sure to keep that front and center for you all so that we can kind of understand as these numbers hopefully change moving into 2026 reporting, all right? So you'll see that our total cost last month was right at $865,000, but we got about $250,000 back in rebates. So with our funding of $787,000, if you subtract out those rebates, we actually had a positive month in December, which was nice. So we had enough bad months in 2025. It's nice to kind of end on a good note. If you go down to the gray shaded part at the end of total cost, you'll see we got about $1.1 million, almost $1.2 million in prescription rebates this year. Back over on the drug claims, we spent $3.2 million. So about 37% of our drug cost came back in rebates. Is that system my favorite on the planet? No. It's very convoluted, but that's the system that we have to work with. So the best thing we can do is make sure that, like we've done each year, continue to renegotiate our PBM contract so that we get the best drug cost and the largest rebates we can. So in today's market, I'm pretty happy with the 37% we got back there. A lot of that has to do with what drugs are being prescribed, but we do have a lot of specialty and brand drugs, which brings some of those rebates back. And I'll get back to touch on more things about rebates in 2026 as we close, all right? We look down a couple lines and we see the expected reinsurance reimbursement of a little over $902,000. If you'll look over at reinsurance cost, we spent $410,000 on our reinsurance. So we definitely beat the system buying reinsurance this year, getting over double the amount we paid in premium back from the insurance company. In the prior year, it kind of went the other direction. We paid out quite a bit in premiums and only got about $3,000 back. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But when we're on the risk, I think those those premiums are fairly well worth it. We're looking at a total cost of $10 million. We only spent $400,000 on that reinsurance, and it could have been worse. We actually slowed down our expenses at the end of the year. So I was pleased with the ROI we got on our reinsurance for 2025. I guess I'll stop here because, well, I'll go into one more thing. Below the revised total cost of $8.1 million for 2025, you see the planned funding difference, and then forgive me, I'm a rounder. We basically lost $900,000 on the plan this year. There was a time, halfway through this year, a little further, that, I thought we might be looking at $1.5 million if the hits kept coming like they did, but they did slow down for us. So where we were 6 months ago, I'd say we kind of got lucky with that $900,000 loss, but with the changes that Mr. Sherman and you guys have made in funding, I don't believe that'll happen again next year. Plus some of the programs we spoke about before, the wellness program, the HERO program for our GLP-1s, and then our specialty med program that I'll go into after. But I wanted to kind of stop there and see if it's okay, Justice Lyons, if we ask for questions there before I go into some of the 2026 strategy.
Sure. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you. Can you give me an example of what your reinsurance is?
Sure. So the county, although we are a self-funded medical plan, we have two separate types of reinsurance. So technically we're partially self-funded, okay? So we have both specific and aggregate stop loss, all right? So specific for every member, both employees and dependents that are on the county's health plan, they have a specific stop loss. And it's an aggregating specific, which I'll go into momentarily, but it's $185,000, okay? So if Charles Angel is a county employee and I have a $1 million claim year, the most the county is going to pay for me is $185,000. Everything that's paid to my medical care and pharmaceuticals past that would then be reimbursed by the specific stop loss policy that we carry. So it caps our risk on every individual at a certain amount. And we look at different levels and different deductibles and kind of do the spread and see what makes sense each year of where to put that. The aggregating specific that we've done is a little confusing, but they gave us a dollar for dollar credit, so it turned into a no-brainer. It's $100,000. So basically, once any member hits that $185,000 level, everything that's paid after that, up to $100,000, goes into a bucket. And if I hit 50,000 and you hit 50,000, then as a group we've hit our aggregating spec, and that's when that kicks in.
Okay.
And that's where all of this $902,683 came from, was our specific stop loss. Okay, and that is the majority of the premium, because traditionally, if there is a stop loss claim on self-funded plans, it's the specific, because we'll have $1 million member, right? Then we have aggregate stop loss. It's very inexpensive. But it is basically worst case scenario insurance. And we almost hit that in the 2024 plan year. What that does is it says if you go over 125% of what the insurance company's actuaries before the plan year and underwriters said this was the expected amount of claims, it goes over 125% of that. After you've subtracted out reinsurance cost, rebates, all those things, so actual spend, which is hard to do, Justice Ecke, then that would kick in and reimburse us, even if we didn't have specific stop loss claims, because it's on the aggregate, if that makes sense. Ag hits almost never happen, but the pennies are the premiums, are pennies. So we go ahead and do that just to insure against the catastrophic. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, it does.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Any other question for Mr. Angel?
All right. The last thing I'd like to go over with you all is how we're handling specialty drugs in 2026. We've tried to change different ways to get some assistance in the funding there, okay? It shouldn't stop anyone from getting a specialty drug. So first and foremost, I want to make sure everyone knows that. We wouldn't just completely stop people from getting those. They definitely save lives. But the reason I want to bring this to your attention is, one, to show you we're trying to find other ways to save costs. But two, we see these huge numbers in rebates, this $1.2 million in drug rebates. If this plan is successful, our pharmacy spend is going to go down, because specialty drugs are usually about half of our total pharmaceutical spend, right? But they're also a huge chunk of our rebates, more than half of our rebates, right? So I don't want anyone to panic if the rebate number goes down. What we really want to look at is the net spend, right? What did we spend on pharmaceuticals minus the rebates? If that number is lower in 2026, we won. All right, so here's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to use 3 alternate sources of funding before we exception out a specialty drug and just pay for it out of the plan like we've been doing. First and foremost, we're working with manufacturers to try to get manufacturers' assistance. Because all right, I'll pick on AstraZeneca because we've all seen the commercials, right? If you can't afford your meds, AstraZeneca may be able to help. Anybody heard that on TV before? That's what we're trying to do. See if we can get that drug at maybe 40% of the face value. Because you see we're getting 37% on these rebates, so we're still paying 63. So if we can drop that down, we don't need the rebate. We'd rather pay that 40% than pay the 63. So we're doing that. Canadian sourcing, European sourcing, different things like that. If we can find those drugs cheaper somewhere else, we can buy them from there. And the third is called 340B, which is a federally qualified health center can then sell drugs, a certain list of drugs at a lower cost. So we look at each of those 3 levels. Each time a specialty drug is filled, if we can get it cheaper there to the employee, that's what we'll do. If not, then we'll fill it through the traditional health plan. It's difficult to predict up front, but my hope with this would be pretty substantial. One thing that helps us is a lot of the manufacturers, not all, but a lot of the manufacturers tie income back into who they give the assistance to. That number is the same everywhere. So as we all know, wages are higher in California or in New York or in Florida than they are in Arkansas on average, right? So that's one of the ways we kind of win there a little bit because a larger portion of our workforce would be available for that manufacturer's assistance. So we're really hoping that can drive down the total cost of the prescriptions because as you see, a big chunk of our spend, about 33% of it, comes from prescriptions or 20% of it after we back our rebates out. So if we could affect that by a decent amount, that might be one way we spend less money going forward. And it also saves the employee money out of their pocket because if we can drive that number back down, then you can waive that copay for the employee. Plans getting the drug for cheaper, employees getting the drug for cheaper, everyone wins.
Any additional questions from Mr. Angel? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Item 6, Comptroller's Report. Comptroller Sherman.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The first one is a summary of statements. That's just the first month, so we're only 8.33% through the year. So if you look at that actual used down the line, everything's looking pretty good. You see the quorum court was 15%. That's primarily because we put those not-for-profits that come in and brief, like Illinois Watershed, things like that, and pay them up front. Same thing with services there, that's contracting, 32%. There's a couple contracts that get paid in the beginning of the year, and then that will flatline out, and you should see that it normals out. Health insurance fund, it was only 3.8%, which January was a good month for health insurance. So I'm hoping that this year going forward, we stay there. And I think they've already renegotiated. I think they renegotiated the reinsurance already, and I think that we did pretty good in that arena, given that we have some outliers. So in the back there, you'll see that there's several in the grants that it says there's an error message, and basically you can't divide by 0. Once we pass the ordinance tonight, if you guys pass the ordinance for the grants carryover, what the comptroller does then, comptroller department, we go in, put that in the budget, and go from there, and then those numbers will make more sense after that. So, is there any questions on the summary statement? So the next one is the unappropriated reserve account, and basically there was no action on that last month. There was a couple ordinances that were passed, but it was really just recognizing money that was coming in and then reappropriating the money, which makes a net 0 on any kind of action. So unappropriated reserve is exactly what it was when we started the year after we budgeted. $1.8 million in general fund. The one thing about the general fund we've been talking about is that you see how the employee insurance is negative, but really that 1,000 level money, that 15 million in the eyes of the law counts as unappropriated reserve. We just don't want to move that up there because we want, to try not to spend that and keep that in the coffers. So, is there any questions on the unappropriated reserve?
Thank you, sir. Item 7 is information on the COVID mitigation project update. Yes, sir.
We'll take a moment. I'm going to introduce our wonderful building commissioner. But I want to start with this. Over a year ago, we started on one of the most consequential construction projects that Washington County's ever went under. And what I would like to say is, just to set the tone for you guys a little bit, understand this is a major renovation at our currently operating detention center. So this is a very dynamic construction environment. This is much different than what you would normally see when you start from scratch on a vacant site. This is an operating jail. And so I want to start by saying thank you to Nabholz, who's serving as our construction contractor, and thank you to all the homegrown subs we've been able to hire here around Northwest Arkansas who have been there. It's been a challenging project for a number of reasons that I believe our commissioner will illustrate to you, but also that they're working in a dynamic environment that has to be under a lot of security. And so I want you guys to think about that a lot when we're talking about our contractors and stuff. And what I'd like to also share with you is I visit that job site regularly, and what we have is individuals who know they're building something that is going to be enjoyed and to the benefit of all our citizens in Washington County. So first of all, as county judge, I want to thank all of our subs for working so hard and so dynamically in this environment. Next, and specifically, Lance Johnson has been a blessing to this county. And I want you to know that as county judge, when I asked him to stand and take this role for the county, I knew not what I asked of that man, because he's overseeing now 2 major construction projects for us, but also he's essentially on call for our buildings and grounds team for any dynamic situations that they face. So what I would like for you guys to understand is none of us knew when we started these terms that we currently serve in, I believe, that we were going to be builders in Washington County, but that's what's been required and necessitated of us. And I want to say, we would not be doing this without Lance Johnson serving as our building commissioner. These projects are much more complex and much bigger than even I understood when we undertook them. So what I want each and every one of you to know tonight, we wouldn't be doing this without Lance Johnson. And so without further ado, we're here tonight. I wish the sheriff had representation here. That's kind of a ding on this being one of the most important construction projects we've had, but we'll go ahead and carry this for them. And with that, I'm going to introduce Lance Johnson, our building commissioner, once again, who we're blessed to have here as Washington County. Lance?
Thank you. Good evening. I am very, very happy that I'm giving this report tonight and not a year ago. Because a year ago, we had lots of issues to deal with. Tonight, I can tell you the project is going to be completed under budget and 5 or 5.5 months ahead of schedule. And that's a complete turnaround from where it was a year ago. And I'll explain that a little bit later when I talk about the finances. But first of all, let me describe the 5 areas that the schedule is broken down into and where we are in each one of those. First of all, Area A is the kitchen addition, the storage area, and a new loading dock. And each one of these areas have both new construction and then remodel in an adjacent area inside the existing jail. In Area A, the new construction is complete and is turned over to the sheriff. It's interesting that there's a storage warehouse associated with that. It was full in about 48 hours. The remodel that goes along with that area, that includes the new freezers and the new refrigerator. That portion of the work will be done March 13th. Area B is the medical area. That is complete. Both the new and the remodel portion of Area B is turned over to the sheriff. Area C, the intake area, is complete, both the new and the remodel, and is ready for the sheriff to occupy it. The courtroom within the jail is being remodeled and expanded. That will be complete March 6th. We tried desperately to get that done before the early voting started, and we ran into a significant structural problem down there we had to deal with, and we didn't make it, but March 6th looks real good. Area D and E are both the connecting link in the new work release portion. The connecting link is essentially done, but it will not be turned over until we turn over all of the work release portion. And that's, if you drive down there, that's the only part of what we've done that you can see from outside the jail. It's the big building right across the street from the road department. That will be done on June 30th. And our approved schedule today has a December 13th completion date. So we're gonna be about 5.5 months ahead of that. And if you look at these dates, virtually everything is done by the middle of March, except that area of the building. So all of the craftsmen that work throughout the project will all be concentrated on one area, and they're anxious to get that done. And again, we got to give Nabholz a lot of credit for what they've done, because as we talk through these changes, we made the project difficult for them. We gave them lots of challenges, and they stood up to all of them. Let's talk about money. The budget on the project at the start was $19,036,000, and I'm going to round these numbers off the nearest thousand. So 19,036. Within that budget was a contingency, a group of allowances, and the general conditions for the project. Now, the contingency was set at 3% of the contract amount. It was set at $571,000. Because of all of the problems we ran into at the beginning of the job, we to date have spent $828,000 of that $571,000. So we're right now on the contingency line item, we're $257,000 over budget, over the contingency budget. And let me explain a little bit about what happened. Every time we put it, first of all, there was utilities that had to be relocated, primarily the sanitary sewer, that ran under every one of those buildings I've told you about. Every time we put a shovel in the ground, we did not find what we expected to find. If they told us a certain pipe was there, it wasn't there. If they told us nothing was there, there was something there that we didn't know about. And it went on and on and on. We spent 90 days re-engineering and fixing what we found in the ground so we could go to work. and the engineer had to rework all of that. We've got a dirt contractor that's half-stepping because he's got to jump all over the place where he can work and where he can't work. And so for 90 days, we accomplished almost nothing. And Nabholz was just sitting in a trailer chomping at the bit because they were supposed to be starting footings in Area B, and we couldn't get the pipe out of the way. We couldn't get it to the point where they could get anything done. And long story short, of this $828,000 out of the contingency, all but $136,000 of that was spent on reworking the utilities and the delays to the contractors. Okay, so how are we going to make it up? Within the estimate is a group of allowances. Now, these were line items where we didn't get good bids, or we didn't know the scope of work, or we knew we were going to have to do something, but we didn't know how much and what it amounted to. And in that $19 million budget are $864,000 worth of allowances. As of this moment, we suspect we're going to accomplish all of that work and save $337,000. Okay? The other item in the estimate was the general conditions. The general conditions is the monies we pay to Nabholz to supervise this project. Our agreement, the initial agreement called for 20 months of general conditions. We gave them a change order and an extension for 3 additional months because of the delay. And our agreement is to pay them $55,700 per month. If we finish the job 5.5 months early, which they tell me we're absolutely going to do, that saves another $300,000. So we, between the allowance savings and the general conditions savings and the overrun on the contingency, we're going to net out about $380,000 to the good as of today. Now that could change, but we think about, we've got all the underground done. We've got all of the remodel demolition done, which was the 2 areas that caused us the most grief. So I don't see anything significant that can cause a change at this point. And that's all I've got tonight.
It's good news. Questions? J.P. Lemon?
Well, it sounds like you're on top of it. Sounds like you're doing a good job. And anytime you remodel, you don't have a clue. Like you said, when you put your shovel in the ground, you don't have a clue what's down there. And that trackhoe tears out a 10-inch line, you've got a big problem. So I think it all sounds good to me, looking good. Thank you.
Thank you. Nabholz gets the credit, and the judge said it, and I'll say it again. But a combination of their hard work and a combination of the fact that every subcontractor working down there wants to be very successful, not necessary for us, but they want to work for Nabholz on the next one. So they're taking care of business. J.P. Koger?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for this report. I do have some questions. When I asked that this be put on the agenda, I wanted a breakdown about change orders that went over budget. Could we talk about that for a little bit?
Talk about anything you want to.
Okay, how much have the change orders, in dollar amounts, have change orders gone over budget?
How many, say that?
How many in dollar amounts change orders have gone over budget? Like, for instance, on my chart, I have it's kind of small print, let me see if I can read it. Will Shark, whatever that is, that the change orders makes his 77.57% over budget.
Yeah, and I don't know what you're referring to. The total of the changes that we've written are $828,000 as of today.
As of today, change orders for all the.
For all of the contractors
Okay.
involved in the project.
Okay. And also, I have from earlier information that we had that the Nabholz, the cost listed to the county was $2.9 million from Nabholz. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I can't hear, so
Okay.
I've been in the construction business too long.
Well, I have trouble with my hearing, so I can relate to that. I'm just trying to understand. So the Nabholz contract was $2.972 million, and we had one delay that cost $218,000, okay? And then on top of that, in addition to that, there was this, to Nabholz, there's 7% contracted for the architectural firm, which is $1.1 million, is that correct?
Well, if that's the, are you referring to their fee or the architect's fee?
Right now, I'm referring to the 7% contracted for the architectural firm.
Yeah, and I don't have it in front of me, but that sounds correct.
Okay. Could we have a copy of whatever you presented tonight so that we could look? I made notes, but I'm not sure I got every. Okay. Okay, well, I sent the judge a request today, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I wanted a breakdown on every contract and subcontract, what they originally were, what the change orders were, and what they are today. So is that possible for us to get that from you, Mr. Johnson?
I don't have it, no.
Who would have it?
Would the purchasing or the comptroller's office?
You can go that for each contract, Mr. Sherman? Okay. I'm still going over my notes. I may have some more questions, but I'm going to let someone else ask questions now. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson? J.P. Ecke.
The point remains, Mr. Johnson, that we're coming in 5 months ahead of schedule and under budget, correct?
That's correct.
So no, I've been through the change orders,
Oh,
but it
wait.
doesn't matter what the bottom line's gonna be.
Well, hey,
it does matter, you look at it.
matters, and we don't like change orders. But
No, we don't.
In a job like this, you're not gonna do it without change orders.
And you do have to look at them very, very carefully. That I understand Justice Coger wanting to look at it very carefully because sometimes mistakes make. But I want to say thank you for coming in under budget and ahead of time.
Thank
On
you.
behalf of the taxpayers.
Hey, and I had
Nabholz,
a very
thank you.
small part of it, okay? We got a team, and the team has worked very well together, and
How many jails have you overseen? This is not something new for you. How many jails, constructions, and
I built a couple of prisons in Texas.
thank you.
J.P. Massigill.
Yeah, I wasn't going to add anything new to that. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your hard work.
Okay.
I know you gave a lot of credit to Nabholz, but it's a team to pull something like this off, so appreciate it.
J.P. Bond.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Johnson, for what you and Nabholz and everybody involved have brought. You've brought us a gift horse. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
J.P. Coger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, under this handout we got from Comptroller Sherman, I don't know if he needs to answer this or you, but it shows funds remaining of $6.2 million. Correct. What does that mean? Is that from both ordinance 122, 123, and 22, 124?
Correct. That's what's left out of the revenue replacement fund, which is the second one there. So the very first one was the architectural work that was done in 2022 to establish, okay, how much is this gonna cost?
That's the firm that we fired, correct?
And then correct. So then the next one, the revenue replacement, what happened is, I think the 2217, that is where the county said, okay, we're gonna take the standard allowance of 10 million that we're allowed to take, and this is revenue replacement. In my understanding, I haven't looked in depth, but that money can be used for any county purpose whatsoever. But when you went down and came to that 8.8 figure, and it's really through two ordinances, is if you look at that 22-123, talks about the overall cost, talks about the 10 million, what we've already spent, and we needed to appropriate 8.8 in ARPA money. So the 8.8 and the 10 million was covering the cost of the total project. So when I look at it, I say, okay, how much is left of the revenue replacement? We've spent to date revenue replacement at the COVID mitigation project 6.1 million, and there's 3.8. I don't want to go with my glasses on. I think it's 3.8 is remaining funds that can be spent on the COVID mitigation project. Then if you get down to the ARPA money, we appropriated 8.8 million, and then to date, there's been 6.4 million spent, and there's 2.3 million left of that. So that's the money that can still go into the COVID mitigation project. And as Lance said, we're probably coming in about 400,000 below budget. I put 400 to 500,000. That was just a shot in the dark after I toured it last month, and we talked about how fast we were going to be done, or last week, how fast we were going to be done, and we calculated that figure. So that's where that comes from.
Well, my next question is, so if I understand this correct and what you just said, 6.2 million remains, but in the treasurer's report, he has 3.2 million.
The 3.2 million, is he still around? Bobby still around? That is the ordinance. So there's other ARPA money. So he tracks it by ordinance. So the ordinance 22-123, that ordinance was 8.8 million. And of that, there's 2.3 million left. So there's some other ARPA money, if I'm correct, Treasurer Hill, that is out there that, either is going to, whatever we need to spend it on, or return to.
My report shows 3.2 million just in the ARPA fund. That doesn't count the revenue replacement funds. Is that what you're asking about?
Well, I guess so. Let me look at it just a minute, because it has revenue replacement on here, 10 million, and it says expense 10 million. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, that's just for the benefit. That 10 million came out of the ARPA fund. We haven't spent all that 10 million yet because it went into its own fund, but for that report, it shows 10 million just because I had to move it out of there.
Okay.
And 1,006 in my report is where the revenue replacement is on that treasurer summary.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay. Okay, so I'll just, if I'd like to follow up tomorrow with Mr. Johnson and give him some figures, some things that I have, if we could kind of sort them out. Would that be okay? Yes? Would that be okay, Mr. Johnson?
You have to text me. I don't know what the question. What's the question?
Well, she wants to follow up with you tomorrow on some of the specific contract stuff.
Well,
I got it.
I'm going to be at a meeting all morning tomorrow, so.
Oh, what about the next day? Next day, okay?
Next day. I'll say this too. I just want to.
Beth, we'll get you any information you want to.
Well, thank you,
Some of
Judge.
this would be very beneficial if you would just have a conversation with us. You know what I mean? And I know you always hide behind this thing about, well, the public needs to know. Whatever we discuss, you can come down here, we're gonna share it with your colleagues, we're gonna share it with the public. This is a very complicated project. It takes a lot to get all the eccentricities. Does that make sense? You would need a little bit to sit down and walk through this project because we live it every day.
Will you let me speak, please? I just think that in this day and time, we have everything on computer. It should be easy to get a printout of what the original bid was, what has been spent, and what the change orders have been, and how much over or under we are.
Sure,
That would-
absolutely.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, like, I will attest to you, we'll get that information.
Thank you.
But what I'm also saying is, I don't know the labor hours involved in that. I don't look at the background details of this information. We'll get you whatever you can. And then the other thing I'll say is, this man's time's very valuable. We're lucky we get him for what we do. Okay, so we're going to supplement with staff as much as we can to free this man up to do more of what he does every day, which is bring us the projects under budget and ahead of schedule.
But Judge, I have asked you for things and you haven't always gotten it to me, so that's why I was asking.
You like to communicate through FOIA. When you do that, that's a very formal way to communicate, Beth. There's not really an option to say, Beth, you're asking the wrong question. You really need this information. Come over here and look at this. I would love to have that relationship with you. Let's try.
I think we're
I have it
outside
with
of,
several other of your colleagues.
I think we're outside of what this agenda item was for. So if we have additional reporting on this agenda item, let's please continue. Otherwise, I'd like to move on, please.
Well, just one last thing. I will say that my numbers tie out with Bobby's numbers, or Treasurer's Hill's numbers, so they're right on the money. So I'm pretty confident in that schedule that I gave you, that we're under schedule. I will like to echo Lance's, I think, is humble. When I went down and toured, when the construction project manager comes, there's a whole lot of respect for Lance, and things get done, so.
But then everybody has said it, but the numbers tell a whole story of what Mr. Johnson has done for us, right? As he provided early on, we were underwater, and he brought us back with help of his team and the contractors that we have there to come in under budget and before schedule. So much appreciated, Mr. Johnson, for everything you do for us. Item 8 is an ordinance projecting revenue and carryover total. So every year, the grants funds have to be rolled over to the next year. And what this ordinance does is basically rolls those totals over for the carryover totaling $7,621,908.51. Each fund is identified as well as there's a attachment that defines the grants and those types of items. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we pass item number 8.1 and pass it on to the quorum court with a due pass recommendation, sir.
Thank you. I have a motion by J.P. Ecke to pass item 8 onto the full quorum court, the due pass recommendation, seconded by J.P. Dean. Any discussions? Citizens comment. Okay, I have a motion by J.P. Ecke to pass item 8 to the full quorum court, the due pass recommendation. It's seconded by J.P. Dean. All those in favor, aye? Aye. All those opposed? That passes. So item 9 is an ordinance amending the law enforcement grant fund for 2026. We've received notice that we'll receive grant award in the amount of $7,500 to be used to facilitate alternative dispute resolution for 2026. J.P. Ricker?
Motion to pass full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion by J.P. Ricker to pass item 9 to the full quorum court, the due pass recommendation, seconded by J.P. Dean. Any discussion? Citizens comment. So I have a motion by GP Record to pass item 9 to the full quorum court to do pass recommendation, seconded by JP Dean. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Item 10 is an ordinance authorizing the county judge to enter into a contract for services with the Association of Arkansas Counties and appropriating $6,517 to be paid for membership therein. So as a county, we're a member of the Arkansas Association of Counties. Many benefits come from this by being a member of the county. Some examples are they provide legislative representation to all the counties. They provide general research, training, public conferences. There's a legal or what's the risk management that they provide us under this contract as well. Thank you. And workers' compensation. Thank you. JP Rickard, did you second? Thank you. So we have a motion to pass item 10 to the full quorum court to do pass recommendation by JP Pond and a second by JP Rickard. Discussion. JP Pond.
We've in the past had newcomers on the court have a tendency to question this issue, and it'd be kind of like for us to operate without this. It'd be kind of like driving a vehicle down the road with no liability. It'd be about the same. So it'd just be foolish to go with that. Thank you.
JP Bruns.
Thank you, sir. I have one concern about this ordinance, and I don't know whether I was told correctly or not, but I was told that to meet this ordinance, that this group, being a quorum court, was going to get restricted from even contacting the AREC down there at all. And my question is, why? See, we're voting on something we're sending a lot of money to. I don't disagree with Mr. Pond in that it's a liability issue not to have something, but when they tell us that we have to use attorneys that some of us don't even consider capable, it's hard. I mean, I ought to be able to go get my own attorney if I see fit.
Councilor Lester.
Well, I think you got some bad information saying you are restricted. The AAC doesn't provide general legal counsel to any county. They're not a law firm. They don't provide legal services. They do provide, with this one exception, when it comes to the risk management fund, because they operate the risk management fund, they keep the risk management fund, they make the determinations with money is paid out of the risk management funds. They have a team of lawyers who represent the risk management fund. And so all of the 1983 federal lawsuits that we have out of the jail are risk management fund lawsuits. They represent and they provide legal services for the risk management fund on behalf of the county. That's what they do. So other than that, they don't provide legal services.
Okay, so what you're telling me is this group right here is not restricted from talking to them about getting advice.
Not at all. But they're gonna loop in Counselor Baker and I on anything so that they don't give competing advice. Because attorneys can have a difference of opinion and interpret things differently. Courts do it all the time. But they will be looping in the county attorney's office so that we're aware of what's being asked, because we represent the county. So if the county gets sued, the AAC won't send attorneys to represent you because they can't.
I understand that you feel you represent the whole county, but you do not, as we have discussed on this panel before.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion. If you did that, you'd be accountable to all the public. You're
No, I don't represent the public. I represent the elected officials of the county,
You're not
not the public.
you're not elected to that office.
You're right.
So I don't think that's germane to the ordinance. So I think we've identified what the ordinance and the contract is for, that I've never been restricted. I mean, I've reached out to them before. I've never had any issue, and I don't perceive anything in the ordinance that's going to restrict that going forward. So any other points on the ordinance, sir?
No, I just want to bring that point up, and that's why I'll be voting no.
Thank you, sir. J.P. Ecke.
Am I next? Okay. Number one, anytime any of us have contacted the AAC and asked for a legal opinion, as I did here recently, and Attorney Mark Whitmore responded, but he also CC'd Attorney Lester in my question, and it had to do with the process and procedures of vetting. And he answered it, and he gave me state statutes and of what he based his opinion on. I would like to say that it is not just for the quorum court. The Association of Counties has a general membership, and it's for all the county judges, sheriffs, assessors, trainers, circuit clerks, collectors, and for even the coroners. And each affiliated association's elected offices hold their own meetings for continual education of what's coming out of the legislature and so on and so forth. But to me, the most important reason I believe we need to support this is because of the risk management. The Risk Management Fund combines all the resources of the counties to provide a stable and competitive pricing. The protections are general liabilities, civil rights liabilities, auto liabilities, physical damage, and property. And then also we have workers' compensation. And this trust fund provides workers' compensation coverage for all counties in Arkansas. The members, we do enjoy the benefit and dividends of premium discounts, and all claims are handled by the AAC in-house by their experienced and licensed adjusters. They are the experts, and they assist in the loss control and safety needs. For those two reasons, and the general membership, because we all need continuing education, I would like to encourage our colleagues to support this and pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Thank you, sir.
J.P. Lennon.
Thank you. I think it's, I've been here 5 years, and it's a good cause, and we need to be invested with them, and it works, because I call them and I talk to them. But where I'm having a little bit, I mean, I'm not having no trouble with I'll be voting for it. I don't have no trouble. But I've had some elected officials tell me that they're having to go through Brian Lester and Catherine. So they cannot talk to them at all without coming through y'all first? No. Why has that changed? That hadn't been a problem in the past.
The incident that occurred was there was some legal advice that they gave. You got to understand, for a lawyer to give someone who's not their client and is represented by counsel legal advice is illegal. It's a violation of our ethics rules.
I get that.
They provided legal advice to which my office disagreed with. And my office provided the elected official with our advice. They never once contacted us. They never once got the facts from us or anything. They just provided advice. So we had a conversation with them that we can't go about doing that. We're not against each other. We're to work together. We represent the county. That's our job. That's ethically what we do. They don't. So most counties don't have full-time legal staff. Only a handful of counties do. And I don't know that there's ever been an issue, but this time there was. And so that's why they made the decision that they see the need to loop in my office when they're giving legal advice.
So when your office is, and I know it is, very busy, and
this had nothing to do with it being busy. This had to do with an elected official not liking the legal advice that my office gave, which happens. It happens in private practice. Clients will shop around to get legal advice, forum shop. People forum shop for judges. That's why you see the same people filing the same lawsuits politically against one party or the other are always in the same federal district because they forum shop. That's what happens. But we give legal advice. I have to actually go to court and defend that legal advice. So I want to make sure that when we're doing this, and all we can do is give advice. It's just that, advice. None of you has to take it.
So you can give them your advice and they can still ask. Is that correct?
They can ask without giving my advice.
But so though when they asked your opinion and the judge signs the contract, so the judge is going to give them permission to talk to them, or are they going to say don't talk to them? What's going to happen there?
There's no.
Because I've been told the elected officials and all the citizens of Washington County vote for them and trust them. So we need to trust them that they're doing a good job, and I think they all are doing a good job. So I think they ought to be able to ask another attorney's opinion, especially from the Arkansas Association of Counties.
They can ask anybody. They can ask you your opinion on a
they
legal
can't
matter
ask
if
me.
they want to.
And
as an elected official, they get to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
They can choose whose advice they take.
So
my point is, but if they're going to take advice that is different from the advice that the county attorney's office, they need to know that. They need to know why my office says, hey, we don't think this is the right way to do it. We have to give advice to I have yet to have elected official that I didn't have to tell them something they didn't want to hear.
Okay, so at the end of the day, there was a problem and it changed, and so it's going to stay that way. It's the way I see it. The elected officials are going to have to come to y'all's office.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
They can reach out to the AAC.
Okay.
If it's not a black and white, that statute is 1414-1201. If it's advice or guidance, they will copy my office in to say, hey, we're also copying the county attorney's office in. You've also got to understand that the AAC often reaches out to us. Just here recently, they reached out to me to say, hey, have you seen this new act that the legislature passed? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? Because we've got people calling us, but we need to know it's going to affect counties like you. It was the Industrial Development Authority. And so I provided that information in my thought and my legal advice on it so they could provide that advice, or they could review it and then tell their members who don't have county attorneys, and they could look at those. We work together, and we'll continue to do it. What happened is we can't have a situation where an elected official doesn't like what they're getting here, so they go somewhere else and take that without there being a mesh. It's a violation of ethics is what it really boils down to.
Thank you for explaining it. I'm ready to vote on it.
J.P. Koger.
Thank you. Well, I'm not real sure I understand, because I've been laboring under the same misconception as J.P. Lemming and J.P. Bruns and others, that we aren't allowed to contact the Arkansas Association of Counties. So if I have a question, I can't think of an example right now, but in this letter from Mark Whitmore, he says, Washington County has a new and unique process. It's the first one in our 57-year-old organization. So what is that process?
The unique process that we've created a new process where our office and their attorneys communicate on issues so that we're telling each other and we're advising what we're looking at when there's an issue, what advice we're getting.
But there's bound to be times, Mr. Lester, when we don't agree with you.
Absolutely. It cost us $500,000, remember? So, I mean, I get it. You don't have to take my advice. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to take the advice, but we have to give the advice. My job, ethically, my obligation is to advise the county, not the individual, not like what you want. It's not like a situation where someone comes in and hires me to be a hired gun to just do what they want to do. I've got to follow the law and advise you on what that is, and that's what I do.
Okay, I'm not doing a good job of what I'm trying to ask. Let me think. Are you? I guess what my fear is that the Arkansas Association of Counties will be afraid to give me a different opinion than yours.
No, not at all.
Okay, and for the public, people watching online, I'd like to.
Hang on. Let me find you. Yes, sir. JP Wilson, your point of order.
I wanted to make a point of order, but first I want to say that I don't have anything against this conversation. I even consider it productive. But I think we've gone a long way from the actual ordinance that's on the table. We're talking about a lot of dynamics and procedures within county government, and maybe that conversation needs to happen, but you know, it gets back to, you know, I think we've gotten far away from, are we going to approve this ordinance or not? That's my point.
I tend to agree, and we tend to continue to repeat
I appeal
items.
your order, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry?
I appeal your ruling, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So I believe we're outside of what the ordinance is in that discussion. So my decision is to move on, and if there's discussion JP Coger has on the ordinance itself, then we can continue. Otherwise, we'll go on to the next person. A vote of yes as you agree with me, a vote of no as you disagree with me. Right, okay. So all those in favor agree with my decision, aye? Aye. All those opposed?
I call for a roll call vote.
Division of the assemblies.
You want a division of assembly?
The division of assembly, yes. Sorry.
Raise hands or stand? Stand. So those that agree with my decision, please stand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 10.
Yeah.
Those against?
1, 2, 3, 4.
So my decision's upheld?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one more thing to say, and it's not about the ordinance. I'm just going to say that, so we've been kind of talking around the issue here, but I want the people who are listening to know that this started when Treasurer Hill asked the AAC for advice.
No, point of order, this has nothing to do with the motion on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's
motion
that's
and a
not
second,
right.
and that is wrong.
So is there any other discussion on the ordinance? Thank you, JP Aki. Any other discussion on the ordinance? Citizens comment. So we have a motion to pass item 10 by JP Pond, seconded by JP Ricker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes. Item 11, citizens comment. We have a total of 12-minute comment period with 3 minutes per individual for the comment. Citizens comment. Please state your name. You need to press the button for me when you get there, please, sir, and then state your name and address.
My name is Bryson Austin. I am a resident of Fayetteville. And I just want to say that this quorum court has repeatedly stated that it wants to listen to the will of the county's voters. However, in practice, voters' preferences and concerns are being ignored. We have been over the fact that the people of this county overwhelmingly refused to increase the sales tax and rejected an unnecessary jail expansion. Yet, the county has proceeded with the jail expansion that not only exceeds its construction budget, because it does, but it also is creating a long-term operating obligation that is not supported by the voter-approved revenue. Based on current projections, the quarter-cent sales tax dedicated to the jail is projected to bring in approximately $18 million. Using the first month 2026 collections and the treasurer's own revenue projections. At the same time, the jail is projected to cost roughly $26 million a year to operate. That represents an annual structural gap of $8 million. That is before we account for inflation and mandatory spending, fringe benefits and utilities, rising detention costs, deferred maintenance, and capital expenditures. The picture this paints is a county overspending a sales tax that voters explicitly set and declined to increase, and doing so whilst creating a recurring deficit rather than a one-time expense that can be supplemented by years-old recovery dollars that continue to dwindle. The issue here is not ideology, it's arithmetic and voter consent. If the county believes the jail requires more funding, the appropriate path is to return to voters, not move forward with a project that assumes revenue voters have already refused to authorize or assumes growth uncharacteristic of the precarious economic time we find ourselves in. Until the mismatch between voter intent, projected revenue, and actual operating costs is addressed, claims that the county is listening to voters and being fiscally responsible ring hollow. I'd also like to say, Councilor Lester has a really hard time getting you all to listen to his advice. He is your lawyer, but also the way that, her name is J.P. Koger. Her name's not Beth. She never once called the judge Patrick or Deacons. She referred to him as judge. I would like if y'all showed a little bit more respect to your colleagues and also at any time got your judge in order. You are the elected officials. You are the legislature. You get to dictate how he should behave towards you and your other officials. Please act accordingly. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nick Caffrey. I'm a public defender who works in Benton County, Arkansas, and I live in JP District 10. I think that I do sympathize with folks and the side for expanding the jail, because occasionally when you go in there, it feels like there needs to be a little bit more space to allow for a little bit more dignity. You know, I worked with attorneys from the Washington County office, working bond hearings in that courtroom, and it's tiny and it's cramped and it's difficult. But I have to say, despite that, I'm still against money being spent from American Rescue Plan Act funds on the jail. And so for that reason, I'm not super impressed by the presentation this evening. Not because we're coming in under budget, like I think that's fine, but the money that was budgeted shouldn't have been budgeted there. There was a Treasury rule that came out in 2022 that specifically stated, Treasury presumes that the following capital projects are generally ineligible, and this is about American Rescue Act funds. Construction of new correctional facilities as a response to an increase in rate of crime. I mean, it never should have been spent there. And the fact that it represents a betrayal of the law, in my opinion, but also it represents like a profound lack of creativity to solve a difficult problem. And we keep using and reinforcing the same tools we have with more incarceration and more facilities. But I'd like to encourage all of you to consider that this process, our criminal justice process, needs more compassion, more space for healing, more opportunities for real justice for victims as well, though. So I think you're getting away with one here with the jail and all the money that's already been spent there. But in the future, I think we should try and focus our efforts elsewhere. Maybe you did this because there's, in some respects, an objective need for it down there at the jail. But no one asked for it and nobody wanted it. I can respect that. But in the future, moving forward, we have to be more holistic and we have to find new opportunities to reduce the population there and to reduce crime in general in our communities. Thank you.
Citizens comment.
My name is Jamie. I'm a citizen of Fayetteville, or a community member of Fayetteville. I would just like to say it's truly heartbreaking that, the lack of creativity, it's really tragic. There are lots of ways for prisons to be, and jails to be, I'm sorry, I'm on the autism spectrum, so this is very scary for me, to be better maintained, and I'm glad that hopefully inmates will have a better facility for them to be able to reach reform, since that supposedly is what prisons are for. We know it's for money, but supposedly it's for reform. And it's just tragic to see this consistent lack of sharing of information. I'm new to this. I'm just a student, but I am also an employee. And as a student and an employee, my work is expected out of me to be clearly presented to my employers and to my professors. And so it's really disappointing to see people in charge of projects that are costing money that I will never see in my lifetime not able to stand in front of people who are expecting answers from them and not have a report, not have anything on the screen to display. It just shows a lot of lack of honesty and transparency that I think is concerning. And I know that there's not much that can be done from community members at this point, at least individually, to change that kind of thing. And like the process is like already there, but it's just like, there's nothing more to say. That's just embarrassing.
Thank you. Citizens comment. Seeing no other, we're adjourned.